So for example 3, sorry, distribute and multiply. Distribute and simplify, which, I mean, distributing involves multiplying. That's why, okay. So here we have, well, we multiply there, so we're going to distribute. And how do we do this? Well, when you're multiplying a radical and a number, you just leave the number on the outside and you keep the radical on the inside, or like the stuff in the radical, keep that on the inside. And usually you write the number first. So if we do the square root of 15 times 5, that's just 5 times the square root of 15. You write the number out front, and then whatever's in the radical at the end. That's what you do. And then if you multiply this, well, then you have plus the square root of 15 times the square root of 6. So far, that's pretty simple. We haven't really done anything fancy. When you're multiplying two radicals, you can just multiply the insides. So that's one of the rules that we're going to be using. So if you're multiplying like square root and a square root, then you multiply the insides. If you're multiplying a cubed root, like if that was cubed and that was cubed, you also multiply the insides. So when you're multiplying radicals, you just multiply the insides. So here, this just stays 5 times the square root of 15, and then plus 15 times 6, well, that's just 90. So I have the square root of 90. And I got the 90 because it's 15 times 6. So there we have that. And then the last part is to break down anything that we can. If I try and break down the 15, so if I try to break down the 15, well, the last step is to break down or simplify any radicals. If I try to break down the 15, let's see what happens. So here, let's try and break down 15. That's just 5 times 3. And remember, our goal was to rewrite these numbers as something squared. None of these, we don't have anything squared. It's just 5 times 3. So we have to leave it. Even though there's a 5 on the outside, this 5 is on the inside. So it's not really squared. So we'll just have to leave that one because we can't break it into anything that's a perfect square. So 5 root 15, but 90, I can break down 90. An easy one is 9 times 10, and this would be 3 times 3. There's a perfect square. And then 5 times 2. Remember, so now this is 3 squared times 5 times 2. Remember, anything that's a perfect square, we're going to leave, or no, it cancels out with the radical. So we have, let's write it, plus the square root of 3 squared times 5 times 2. And that cancels out. Remember, the 3 goes on the outside, and the rest, they don't have a perfect square, so you leave them on the inside. So what do we have? We have 5 square root of 15. This is beautiful. Plus the 3 comes out, no more squared. And then 5 times 2 on the inside, you just leave that, but that's just 10. So it's 5 square root of 15 plus 3 square root of 10. And there's your answer. That's as much as you can go. We'll do one more, and then you should be able to do the rest of the problems through 14. So let's try another one. Example 4. Alright, here we go. First thing I do is distribute. So that will go there and there. Whoops, I'm going to do it in red. So I'm multiplying. Remember, when you multiply radicals, you just multiply the insides. So we multiply the intestines. No. We're going to be multiplying the insides of the radical. So if we have, well, the square root of 3 times negative 4 times the square root of 10. We'll also have negative, square root of 3, well, let's write it like this. We're multiplying this, right? So it's a positive times a negative, that's a negative. And so we'll have the square root of 3 times the 3 times that other square root of 3. Since this is multiplication, we can write this in any order, so I'm going to rewrite it. This is not steps that you have to show. You're pretty much just multiplying the insides here to get stuff to get square root of 30, but I'm just going to rewrite it real quick, and I have this, and also I'll have the 3 in front, and then the square root of 3 times the square root of 3. Those are the same thing. You don't have to write this step. You'll just multiply the insides, but I'm just showing you this is what it would look like. And then what would we have? Well, here this is negative 4 root 30, so we'll have to try and break down the 30, and then minus 3 square root of 9. It just so happens this is a perfect square, right? Square root of 9 is just 3. So we have, well, let's try and break down to 30. Let's try and do that. So 30, once we try and break that down, well, that's just 15 times 2. And then this is 5 times 3. Do I have anything squared? 5 times 3 times 2. Nothing squared, so everything just stays on the inside. We can't break this down anymore. So all we're going to do is leave it. Negative 4 square root of 30. Right? 5 times 3 is 15 times 2. Yeah. And then here we have negative 3, but the square root of 9 changes to just regular 3. Right? So we have negative 4 square root of 30 minus 9. And that's our answer. So now that you've done that, I think you should be good to go. Maybe one more. One more. Okay, so I'm just going to do this one quickly. I'll distribute. So I have just negative 5 root 5 times the square root of 3. Negative times a negative is a positive, so plus negative 5 square root of 5 times 3. Whoops, sorry, just kidding, right? Negative times a negative is a positive, so that goes away. And then that 3 there, and then the square root of 10. When you're doing this, you just, remember, you multiply the insides. That's 15, so negative 5 square root of 15. Beautiful, beautiful. And here, well, 5 times 3, that's 15 on the outside. And multiply the insides, right? 5 times 10 is 50. We tried to break down 3 once before, we tried to break down 15 once before, and it didn't work, right? We just had that. So we can just leave that radical. Oh, this one's a negative 5 root 15. There's no point in trying to break down square root of 15 because it doesn't break down into something that's a perfect square. But 50 sure does. 50 is 25 times 2. Well, 25 is 5 times 5. So we have 5 squared times 2. So really, we can break this down. Well, not the first one. We can't break down the first one. But then we have 15 on the outside and the square root of 5 squared times 2. This is going to be left over on the inside, and that will cancel out, and the 5 comes out. So we have negative 5 square root of 15 plus 15 times that 5, and we're left with the square root of 2 on the inside. Okay, so what's 15 times 5? And that's 75. So I just have negative 5 square root of 15. I'm writing down more steps than you guys need to, but I'm showing you, so that hopefully makes sense. And there's your answer. Good day.